everyone, and thank you for joining us here on the Recruitment Roundup podcast, which is brought to you by BMS Performance. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, BMS Performance is a specialist sales and marketing recruitment consultancy. For the last 30 years, we've been helping businesses across the UK recruit for vacancies at every level. I'm your host, Mike Leather, and every week I'll be joined by a new guest where we'll get stuck into the latest trends in regards to recruitment. We'll talk about insights, we share ideas, we share experiences, and ultimately we look to provide value to fundamentally help you, whether or not you're a hiring manager, a business leader, or part of an internal talent team, to recruit smarter, faster, and more effectively. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Recruitment Roundup podcast, brought to you by BMS Performance. I am your host, Mike Leather.
I'm the co-host, Sam Musiarira.
How are we doing, Sam?
All good, Mike. All good, Mike. How are you?
All right. All good. All good. It's mad that at the point of recording this, we are over halfway through the first quarter of the financial year. And we're seeing some interesting themes, aren't we, coming through. One specifically that we wanted to talk about on this podcast to hopefully help some businesses that have got this, should we say, policy in place, who might be finding recruitment a bit of a challenge at the moment. So we can dig into that. But let's sort of talk about as an opening for this, Sam.
Yeah.
If we look at like the quarter as it's evolved, like so far, we're 7 weeks-ish in at recording this. What would you say like are some of the key themes that you've noticed as to why businesses are struggling to recruit for the sales vacancies?
Yeah, Mike, that's a great point. I'm really excited to get into this topic, right? Because obviously, something that's quite dear to my heart, and it's definitely a theme that I've definitely seen a lot more as an account manager operating within the space. But, despite it being the summer months are always going to have challenges year in and year out. We've seen that due to, availability of, candidates going away on holiday, equally the same in terms of businesses. It's that season now where, we're going to need to streamline our processes to ensure that we can operate as efficiently as we can to get the desired outcome, right? But I think what we've definitely seen, and it's just been, more of a policy of, look, we're recruiting for a role. And if we haven't got more than, one CV within the recruitment process that we have, we're not going to be able to move the process forward. And I think, that's what I've definitely seen. And I think, Mike, you're probably going to agree with me. That's had a lot of drawbacks, and from my end, I completely appreciate it from a company perspective, and some organizations have different policies in place, but then sticking to a sort of a red tape type of policy that we have in this, where it's if we haven't got more than one applicant that fits the brief that we're looking for, then we're not going to be able to move forward and want to interview this person, or B, complete the recruitment process further down the line as well. So, I think that's been a real bugbear, and that's definitely sort of starting to creep up even more as the quarter commences, shall we say.
Yeah, I think even though unemployment did rise slightly, according to official figures last month, at the mid-market to senior end of the sales recruitment market, it's still candidate driven, isn't it? To find really good people. Don't think any company is sat there with 5, 6, 7, 8 candidates that fit the brief. So what we're talking about here is where you've got a company and they may have seen 3 people at first interview, but only one of them makes it through to the final stage. And there's some form of policy in place to say, well, unless we've got 2 to compare at the final stage, then we can't move this candidate forward. And like you say, we've also seen it on the other side, whereby it's not even getting to the interview stage. It's we need more CVs before we can. CVs. Yeah, we had one, didn't we, the other week, where the guy said, unless I've got 3 people to see at first stage interview, I'm not doing interviews. And it's it's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this podcast, because there's reasons why companies do that, and we're going to talk about that to keep this a very sort of balanced conversation. But there are genuine problems that this approach causes. So we also want to talk about some of the solutions that companies can take on to hopefully mean that this is less frustrating, because it must be frustrating for them just as it can be frustrating for recruitment partners too. But yeah, before we dive in any further, let's just have a quick chat about why we think companies sort of put in this policy and like what they hope to achieve by it. What's your take on that?
Yeah, Mike, it's a great question. And I think ultimately what it boils down to me, in my opinion, is companies ultimately, when I've been having these kinds of conversations, they put in policies like this, because, they want to make sure from their end that they are getting a thorough assessment of the market, in the sense of, we want to make sure that we're recruiting the right person. And when we are then, pitting said candidate up against another person, we always want to be making sure that we've been able to, score and grade and rank this person as compared to something else within that marketplace. So companies are, ultimately looking to do that. So they're either sure or maybe slightly more unsure of the decision-making process when it comes to the end, and by allowing themselves to then have someone else to look at alongside, then it gives them that sort of clarity on the back of, how did this person answer this question? How do they compare with this person? So that's what it really boils down to, is, just having a backup, shall we, or like
that peace of mind.
Yeah,
so like,
that peace of mind.
They're scared of making what they think is a rash decision, which
like
in theory it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I guess this is a perspective as recruitment professionals that we can give to any talent leaders, sales leaders that are listening to this. I think what you see as far as candidates at interview are byproducts of a huge process that have gone on behind the scenes. So whilst you might not feel that you've got as much of a benchmark as you'd like, then your recruitment partner or in-house recruitment team have probably been through 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 applications, selected a finite amount of those people that they feel that on paper are a potential match, then spoken to those people, and then probably qualified out 50% of those, so that what you're left with is 3 or 4 CVs that meet the brief, of which you select to see one and then say that's not enough. So it's that perspective, isn't it, that what you see at that outcome piece isn't actually
what the actual process
what's gone into the process. And I think that's that whenever you have this situation, I think that's always a bit lost. And no disrespect to sales leaders or whoever listening, but I just think that perspective gets lost, and that appreciation for what's actually gone on to unearth 1 or 2 candidates or 2 or 3 candidates. If you've got quite a specific brief, probably not going to see a huge amount of people anyway, are you? So
of course,
I think there's that perspective piece that sometimes get lost.
Mike, I really 100% agree with everything that you're saying there. And when I think about some of the conversations that I've had with sales leaders and HR managers and talent partners as well, and when you're asking those questions and you're looking to find out from them, what does your current recruitment partner do for you in terms of whenever you're looking to recruit, and usually that answer more often than not tends to be they find us CVs, and that's usually the answer that you would get. But not often enough do people really understand what goes into finding a CV within a specific brief or role that you're recruiting for. So when you've touched on that actual process, Mike, and when obviously just to self-plug BMS in terms of what we would be looking to do, it's not as simple and straightforward as just, we've taken the brief, we've understood the brief, and we're sending you one CV. It's essentially the mapping of the market based on the role that you're recruiting for, based on the experience that you're looking for, based on the market conditions that are available. And
Yeah.
within that, it's filtering through significant amount of applicants. Some of them are active, some of them that might be passive, and it's literally engaging and interviewing and screening and putting these people through a recruitment process on our own, which is, rigorous 4-stage process in terms of what we would be looking to adhere to. And all these things will happen, prior to you actually receiving the CV, and then you then receive X amount of applicants on the back of using your current supplier, filtering that down and deciding that, you want to move forward with one. It's not a true assessment of, what exactly has happened, and based on how tight your brief is, and based on whether what you're looking for actually exists within the market at the time that you're looking for it, you're probably setting yourself up to fail in the first place.
Yeah, I also think that this comes down to trusting your recruitment partner, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And I think this, though, inherently is a problem for the recruitment partners creating, because you've just give a really good overview there of some of the things that BMS would do.
Yeah.
We try not to plug BMS in this podcast, and we do a really good job of that, but that's just an example of what goes on behind the scenes. But I think the inherent issue here is that recruiters aren't that great at explaining what they will actually do to attract, assess, and qualify candidates as a fit for a vacancy. So from a client's perspective or a recruiting company's perspective, they just think that done is look at some CVs, send us a few more CVs that can meet the brief. And I think that's something that recruiters have got to take ownership for and got to get better at to help their clients understand exactly what they're going to do to fill a role, so that when they get to the point of interview, they've got a really good understanding and confidence in the resource, the search, everything that has gone before it. So if they only see one or two candidates, they know that they're the best one or two candidates available at the time that they're recruiting.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes down to the recruiter's ability to be able to discuss what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and demonstrate a really good understanding of what that client is looking for.
I love that, Mike. And also, like, the key point that I've also taken out of there is that trust, right? It sounds like there's a bit of, lack of it, in the sense of, just give us a bit more. Like, we don't trust what you're doing. You just send me CVs anyway. What does your process look like? And it's on us as recruiters and everyone within the industry to do a better job of clearly explaining what your current process looks like in terms of, what you do behind the scenes before that CV actually hits the desk of, the person that is managing that recruitment process. So, but also it's that trust required on works both sides. Like, trust works both ways in the sense of, are you trusting the partner that you've decided to work with on the back of the work that they do, to ensure that, what they are saying to you, you're taking it and, agreeing with it and listening to it and having an open, honest conversations and being able to work forward together. Yeah,
indeed. Agreed. Totally. I think one of the great perspectives that we can give, that, again, if you're an employer recruiting, you don't always get this view, is, what issues that this type of policy can actually cause, not just for the recruitment of said vacancy, but then the future as well. So why don't we just sit in that for a little bit? Like, market conditions at the moment, we've just alluded to, it is a candidate-driven market. There are types of vacancies in the current market as well that, depending on the brief, you can recruit for quite well through using an advert, but then there's other vacancies that require a lot more resource and expertise in order to fill. I would say salary expectations have sort of normalized now. Generally speaking, people are still getting good pay rises. Candidate life cycle outside of London is what, 2 to 4 weeks, would you say, as a max, or shorter than that? London a little bit quicker in some respects, but
I think
that's how often people are on the market for. When you make an offer to a candidate, generally, how many other offers would you say that they have on the table? I know this is really a broad question, but like, just as a general barometer.
Look, it's a great question, to be honest with you, Mike, because you could go anywhere with it, right? It depends how good the candidate is, right? Or it depends. But like, as a general barometer, probably maybe one other, a potential
at least
stage,
one,
or at least one as a minimum, and then some of the top candidates, 3+ really. So you'd expect at least something else to be at a similar stage as a minimum.
Yeah, and we almost never work with a candidate that isn't in a process with another company.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, exclusive candidates don't exist.
Yeah.
And they've always got loads of other stuff going on. And or the typical interview process now is 2 stages. First stage by teams. Sometimes you get a 3-stage process, but 2's about the norm. So companies are moving quick. Candidates are in demand.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to set the scene there as to like what the market is like. So then when you throw in this policy that some companies have, like, what are some of the impacts that you've seen? Because you'll have experienced this over the the last few months. Like, when you've had this, what have been some of the impacts, like, in terms of the candidate side, and then maybe a bit about the company and their ability to recruit for the vacancy?
Yeah, and it's a really great question, Mike. And obviously, there's so many different, points that we go through. But I'll probably go with the first thing, and we're speaking on the theme of the candidate. And I'll probably go with just the negative candidate experience that is ultimately created just from damaging the employer brand. To be honest with you, in the sense of, when candidates go through a recruitment process, and companies aren't being able to recruit at a quick enough amount of time, and and the feedback at this time was speaking about things where we can't move due to the reasons that we've spoken about. Just the overall perception of the brand, and just from a candidate point of view, is just disappointment. And just not wanting to engage forward with the brand, and it just
because we've got to be honest, haven't we, the candidates, and say, look, like, they like you, but unless they've got someone else, they're not going to interview you. And then the candidate then, like you say, they feel like
wow, they must
how much do they really want?
How much they like me?
Yeah. But how does that then turn the candidate more on for the company or turn them off?
And
turn them off, isn't it?
It turns them off. It turns them off, and it's all about value, and like it's that they feel devalued, in the examples that I've had. Like, well, I thought we got on really well, like, and the feedback could have been really positive from the company, but then equally, they might not like me well enough, because you're saying that they like me, but the actions speak louder than words, and if we can't move forward, then what is the problem? What am I missing here? And more times than not,
close the interview and they've told me they've got no reservations, no concerns. Feedback's been super positive, but they're still waiting for someone else to come along who is better. Like, that's the mindset they slip into, isn't it?
Of course.
Like, they was waiting for someone better.
Yeah. And it's hard to argue with that, when you think about it from a candidate perspective. It's just like, I get what you're saying, and obviously, but you're right. It's ultimately a negative candidate experience is what I'm definitely, that's definitely my point number one. And then, ultimately, increasing potential dropout rates within that, which is the byproduct of that.
Yeah, and it's difficult for your recruitment partner to be able to keep the candidate warm credibly and act with integrity on your part, because they're representing your business, but then motivate their internal teams to find more candidates again to go again with, when we might be really confident that we've actually got the best candidate for the job here. Awesome. Like, we're not going to be able to find anyone that's a better fit than that. So all we're going to do by putting more people in is just waste your time and alienate the candidate who we should be just pushing forward to. So there's that piece, the employer brand piece, both externally and your employer brand with your recruitment partners, that can sometimes become problematic with this type of policy. But also, it's a time to hire issue, isn't it? Because I've been in this situation from my experience, and of course I've had this, and sales leaders, sales managers also get frustrated with it as well, because sometimes they're not making the decision. It's the MD or it's a CEO. And then a time to hire means, the vacancy's costing more. It means maybe more problems, more pressure on the actual sales leader or team to cover that vacancy. So there's all that, and you could just fundamentally end up exhausting the talent pool, can't you?
100%. And a big part of what we're looking to do is minimize those timescales, and and you spoke about the cost of the vacancy, the cost of time. Money is one thing as well, but there's also the time pressures as well that are involved. So time to hire is a real key one. And a point that I wanted to touch on, Mike, obviously when we're speaking about, quality versus quantity metrics, I feel like this ultimately drives into those negative behaviors, right? And when you've got a quota-based system in place where you're saying it needs to be 1 versus 1, ultimately I would feel like, we're focusing on the wrong things. We're not focusing on the market and the quality that's in front of us. If we're just looking to make sure that we have at least 2, at least 3, at least 4, depending on whatever stage that we're looking at, we're focusing on the wrong things. We're not really focusing on trying to find the right person, and having that kind of bias in place, makes us, not focus on the things that we should be focusing on in the first place.
100% right. So, let's just throw a couple of analogies at this, just to really give it some perspective.
Yeah.
Let's say you want your next car, you're after, I don't know, Range Rover Sport. Let's go with something really nice, right? One day maybe you want a black one, blacked out, nice alloys.
Yeah.
A certain spec. It needs to be under 20.
Can't forget the leather seats.
Leather seats. It's got to be under 20,000 miles.
Yeah.
Got to be at a certain price point. So you see this car, you're on Auto Trader, and there's only one of these cars. In the UK. Other sites are available, obviously, to find cars from, but we'll choose a Auto Trader for the purpose of this. Go on Auto Trader, buying the car. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to buy it because there's no others to compare it against. So we'll give it a week or 2 weeks, and we'll see if it's still there. We'll see if anything else comes along.
Yeah,
you wouldn't do it, would you? You just wouldn't do it. You'd buy the car. Yeah. Say the same as a house. Let's say you're in the market for a new house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want a 4-bedroom house. It's got a nice garden, open plan kitchen, and it's got to be for X amount of price. And there's only one in the area that you want to move into because you need to move to that area because schools, etc., whatever.
Yeah.
But you think, it's perfect. But there's nothing else up for sale.
Yeah.
So let's just let everyone else view that.
Yeah.
And hopefully someone doesn't buy it. And in the meantime, I'm hoping something else will come up. Again, you wouldn't do it. It's nonsensical. So why would we do it if we've got a candidate that's a great fit for a vacancy, ticks all the boxes, we don't have concerns?
Yeah.
You've got to be thinking in the same sort of lines, I think.
100%, Mike. And you've got to strike. And you know what happens more often than not with the analogies that you've spoken about, the Range Rover, the 4-bedroom house, they go.
They go.
Right? They go.
Yeah, they go because it's in demand.
Yeah. Every single time. And I also have this thing as well, when I'm looking to, online shopping, it's a poor analogy, but anyway, I've got this thing of, adding things into my wish list in terms of my basket. And I'll see this really, I was in the market for a chair out in the garden. So I'm trying to do some gardening work. That's another whole other
gardening.
Don't get me started on that. But, I saw this amazing rocking chair and it had all the specs that I had. And, I was like, I can afford that. It was about 100 quid, 120 quid, just one MVP, come on, Sam, let's spend the extra. And you know what happened? I kept it in that basket. Week went down, still there. Looked on the Monday, cannot make this up to you, Mike. Gone. And
why didn't you buy it?
I don't know. Poor recruitment.
Waiting for another one.
And I knew it the whole time, right? So it's it's there, and I've known, and companies are the same, and more often than not working within recruitment, and when you've met the person that is the right person for the role that you're recruiting for, when the car that you want to buy or the house that you want to move into or the rocking chair that you want to put up in your new garden, so great analogies, Mike, and I've definitely learned my lesson. So
I like yours as well. I'm glad that you've experienced the other side as well. All right, cool. So hopefully that really solidifies what we're trying to get across in this conversation. Obviously, it's up to companies how they want to recruit. It's our job to help them recruit better and recruit quicker and recruit more efficiently. And this is definitely an issue that we're seeing playing out a little bit in the market. So let's just finish off with giving some value, some solutions as to what companies can do.
Yeah.
If they find themselves in this in this situation. So I'll go first. I think one of the key things is working with your recruitment partner. So firstly, before you start that recruitment process, you need to understand the size of the talent pool available to you. Like, if you don't know that, how on earth can it be realistic to expect 3, 4, 5 candidates at interview stage if what you're looking for is specific because of the background you want to recruit, the experience level, even the geography that you're recruiting into, and there's a finite talent pool, then you might actually only have one candidate that could do the job. That's the right fit. And that's probably an extreme example, but if that is the case, it makes no sense to operate a policy like this. So it's understanding what's out there and what's available, and your recruitment partner should be able to give you that information.
Like, I absolutely love that point. I love that point. And point number 2 for me is, once we know this and we know what market's available to us, it's also about setting clear timelines in place. Right. And by clear timelines in place, it's about, making sure that we know when we've booked to have first stage interviews, when we've booked to have second stage interviews within the process that we have, and making sure that we've got these dates penciled in, so that we could work towards that, and we can actually be able to filter that information into the candidates that we're speaking to as well. So once we know the size of the market, what's available, then putting timelines in place and time markers so that we could work towards those, to ultimately streamline the process and avoid unnecessary delays.
Yeah, just to add to that, because that's a really, really good point. I think if you are in a situation where you're a sales leader and you can't affect this policy, or you're trying to affect it and you're struggling with it, a good solution is, if you've got a candidate who you really like, maybe you've seen 3 at first interview stage, one is really, really impressed, but ideally you'd like to see a couple more. Don't wait to book that person in. Book that second interview in, even if it's for the week after. Give your in-house, your recruitment team, some more first interview dates prior to that. Pressure's then on them to try and find more people if they can. But then you're not losing that preferred candidate, because if they've got time and a date booked in, then they're less, and they're keen on you, they're up for it, they're less likely to then go off the market. To take something else. They've got a date in the diary as well to start working towards, focusing on the prep. That's the correct way to try and manage that type of situation. Not sure there's anything else you would add to that.
No, Mike. I really, really like that point, because it's, getting the candidate warm, keeping them engaged. If they've got a brief to prepare for a second interview, it's them working on that. It's also them not responding to other emails or other contacts from other people within the market that are looking to recruit them. So by having that in place is good. A point that I wanted to touch on is just ultimately, once we've got the date included, and let's say if it's a week or 2 weeks away, just for example, it's all about maybe enhancing the candidate experience. So I know we speak a lot about looking to create a formulation plan for once an offer has been accepted between offer and actual start date. But what about going above and beyond, and then increasing that feedback, having a touch point between interview stages, so if this interview stage is not going to be for, nothing stopping us providing that additional feedback, letting the candidate know to reduce that anxiety, and then, touching base just to see how you're getting on, how you're feeling ahead of the interview. Something like that, again, is another way to, buy time if you have to, but, that's something else that could work for sure.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Before we round off, we've got something exciting that we've been working on, and it's just ways to add value to sales managers and companies within the recruitment process within sales, as a thing that Mike and I have been speaking about, and that's asking one interview question. And Mike, I think you're going to set us off in terms of asking for your first question, and obviously you have to follow it up next week. So, what's your question of the week, Mike?
So my interview question of the week is one that I love, and the purpose of the question is to get candidates thinking inwardly about how they can be a better salesperson. It gives you a sense of their coachability. It also gives you a sense of their accountability, their growth mindset. So the question is, if you were to critique yourself as a salesperson and consider everything that you do, all of your attributes, what would be the one thing that you think you need to improve on that would make you a better salesperson?
Excellent question. That's an excellent question. And wow, I don't know if you needed me to answer the question, Mike. It's a great question.
No,
and I think with the things that
we'll go for that one this week. I'd love some feedback on it. So if anyone's watching this on YouTube or sees it on LinkedIn, please put a like, put a comment if you like it, or put some comments in the comments if you think if you can think of any better ones as well. This is going to be a feature that we're going to run every week. But thanks, Sam. Love that. Really good topic.
Great question to end it off as well. I love that question. So definitely be encouraging including that one at the end of your recruitment process within sales. Great work.
Great. Okay, well, thanks everyone, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Cheers.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Recruitment Roundup podcast. Thank you very much for listening to the show, to watching the show. We really appreciate your support. It would be absolutely fantastic if you could give us a rating on Apple, on Spotify, give us a review. Any feedback really helps and is massively appreciated. So thank you once again for joining us, and we will hopefully see you again next week.